Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Canada Immigration Live Q&A. I'm Mark Holthe, and I'm with my co-host, Alicia Backman-Bahari, Canadian Immigration Lawyers. How you doing, Alicia?
I'm well. It's finally looking like spring outside. There's a brisk breeze, but there's sunshine, so things are good in Calgary.
That's awesome. I know it was a little windy, and I decided for the first time in 3 years to get back on the bike and ride my bike down to the little office here downtown Lethbridge, which is kind of like a forced exercise plan. So yes, so we're anxiously awaiting for the full summer to arrive, but it is a whole lot better than it was even a couple weeks ago when we had our fresh dump of snow. So it's great to be back. All right, so here's the rules for everybody. If your question is something that's of general nature that would benefit a lot of people, then ask it. If your question is very specific to you, then we encourage you, to consider booking a consult so that we can address it more specifically. So the greater chance you have of getting your question answered is if it can benefit a lot of people. But this is all about Canada immigration, and pretty much everything is on the table. We're happy to provide advice, information and direction and guidance, and just try to enlighten certain aspects of the Canadian immigration process that, well, you wouldn't be here if you weren't certain or had some uncertainty. So that is what we're going to do, and this has been going on for quite a long time. I was looking yesterday, Alicia, when I started this, and I think the first videos that we did, I think, were back in 2015. And so it's been quite fun to just see how this little operation has grown over that time period. As always, post a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. We love seeing where everybody is located, and whether you're on Instagram. Well, actually, Instagram is the only one I think that we're not broadcasting to live. But Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, here YouTube, which is kind of the platform that dominates everything in Facebook. So definitely post a comment. We love to see where you're tuning in from, and we try to pick as well so it's even from each of the platforms so we get a good reach. But anything you have, any questions you have, don't hesitate to reach out. There's been lots to talk about. We also want to let everybody know that our podcasts are starting to pick up. And we just released 2 podcasts just recently, and I'm just going to pull them up right now and I'll show you guys so that you can, while you're commuting to and from work, you can just flip on the podcast and watch that. You can watch it on iTunes, or I think we've got, Spotify, I think, is where we have it. Let's flip this over. Oh, I think, Alicia, I'm not sure if I added you in here. Let's see, it might be a double whammy of me. Yep, we'll switch this over and we'll pull Alicia in. There we go. We're back on track. Great. Okay, so let me get this organized here so everybody can see nice. I've got far too many windows bouncing around here. Okay, let's adjust this up nice. There we go. Yes, so our Canadian Immigration Podcast, Alicia and I just released the latest business immigration series on what to do after the LMIA is approved. And you'll definitely want to check out this one, 108, the strike, its impact on immigration. And you can join us for the Impossible Canada Immigration Trivia. Well, the Impossible Canada Trivia is really what it's about. So definitely slide over, check that out. We would love for you to join us and see if you can beat the brain trust that is in Holthe Immigration Law. We'll see how that plays out. All right, let's give some shout outs here. George, good to see you. George is a past alumnus of the Canadian Immigration Institute, all of the courses. I think George took the Express Entry DIY course, so it's great to have you here with us, George. And let's see, we've got Ishmael. Good day, says good day, moderator. Well, good day to you too. We've got Hossein saying hi, Mark and Alicia. And then Dadam says, hey, Mark, did the strike finished out? Is the strike over, Alicia?
It is not over.
It is not over. No. Okay. And Bob says, nope, the strike is still going. Absolutely it is. Okay, so please post where you're tuning in from. Let's see, we've got Paulo. He says, hey, thanks, Mark, Alicia, and team for helping us. Obrigado. And de nada is the proper response to that, Paulo. We've got Leonard is over in Toronto. Thanks for tuning in, Leonard. We've got Juan. He's in Vancouver, connecting in on LinkedIn. Excellent. Paulo's in Ottawa. Hey, Paulo, we're headed. Alicia and I are headed to Ottawa at the beginning of June for our national conference. So we're looking forward to that. We've got R in Jamaica, and Dadam is over in Dubai. Let's see here. We've got Z also linked in Zimbabwe.
I think
Let's see what
Gladiol
that's
from Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. There we go. The Z kind of slid down there a little bit. Thank you. So from Zimbabwe, that's great. Let's see who else we have here. We'll do a couple more. There we go. There's the correct Zimbabwe there. Great to have you. And as always, Alva back again from Peru. Thanks for connecting in. Amara is over in Ivory Coast. Excellent. Let's see who else. John is up in Fort McKay. Yes, we addressed that one last week. Thanks for connecting in. And I don't know if it's John or Justin. Justin, John, Justin. Well, we're happy to have you here. And yes, Gadil, it's good to see you. I'm glad that LinkedIn is working. Let's see what else we have here. Anyone else we can give a shout out to? Oh, and we've got Kunal is over in Delhi in India. So great to have someone connecting in from across the ocean as well. All right. So George says, yes, it's me. Took the course in 2021. Wow, it's hard to believe, George, that so much time has passed. I think you were one of the first ones with the Express Entry courses when I revised it and released the updated version. And that was just shortly after, I think that was right either before that massive CEC draw. I can't remember, George, if you got in on that draw. I think it was 176 on February the 13th, that massive CEC, or whether you were outside Canada. I can't remember. Okay, George says, how bad will the strike affect citizenship applications submitted next year in 2024? What do you think, Alicia?
Well, it was interesting, Mark. I went to a Canadian Bar Association, Immigration South. We had a round table last night, and so we were talking to other immigration lawyers that work in small, medium, large, really large firms across that are global but located in Calgary. And one of the comments was that probably their estimate was that for every day of the strike, it's probably going to add at least a week of processing time. And who knows? Right now, we do know that there are certain divisions that are being impacted more than others. Theoretically, it should be largely in Canada applications that are getting affected. And if that's true, then, George, it might indeed affect citizenship applications. And we'll see if this strike drags on for a long enough time. It might actually impact things into next year because, we're already at May. But hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be some resolution sooner rather than later. But right now, we just don't know. We know that it is affecting citizenship applications right now.
Yeah. All right. And Ashraf asks the question. I'll just follow through with the same line of discussion that we've just had. I just want to ask you if there will be delay in processing for student visas due to the strike.
And this is one where hopefully there won't be delays for student visas because most student visas are submitted from outside Canada for applicants who are submitting their applications through their own GC key, and it's going to an outside Canada office. And theoretically, there is a different union who's in charge of officers who are working outside of Canada than there are for officers inside of Canada. And so theoretically, the outside Canada offices should still be functioning and should be processing applications. And just policy-wise, practically, the Canadian government knows that students are a big source of revenue for Canadian schools, and it's a big source of skilled applicants in terms of people who have usually high language and adaptability, and they're young and they're keen, and they're hopefully going to get educated in Canada. And so there's a little bit more, I think, incentive for Canadian government to try to make sure to process study permit applications. So hopefully those will continue to be processed. I do know, however, that IEC draws, so if you're looking at international experience class draws, those ones seem to be on hold. There doesn't seem to have been a draw since the strike has started. So it remains to be seen if you're looking for one of those open work permits under a working holiday, or maybe you're looking for a young professional or for one of the international co-op. Those ones might be affected.
And that's a good segue into our next question here from Leonard. He says, my question is along the IEC program. How likely are you denied entry? The benefits to go this route or LMIA route is better. Thank you. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about this, Alicia? And we can maybe just talk really high level, right, Leonard? Because there's a number of factors. And if you guys want to watch and you want to learn a little bit, let's just slide over here. This episode that we did yesterday, we just recorded this yesterday and just released it, I guess, today. This LMIA approved now. We specifically talk about some of the issues that can come up when you're applying for a work permit, and it transfers into exactly this type of a question. But Alicia, do you want to hit on this one just a little bit?
Yeah, so in terms of the programs, there are two main umbrella programs. There's the temporary foreign worker program on one side, and that's the general rule that if a Canadian company wants to hire a foreign worker, they have to prove they can't find Canadians first. They have to advertise and recruit, and only then can they ask for what's called an LMIA, a labor market impact assessment. And if Service Canada or ESDC gives them an approval on an LMIA, then they're able to go out and fill that position with a foreign worker. The benefit of an LMIA is that it is employer specific. And so on your work permit, you will have a specific named employer that you have to work for in a particular job in a particular place, usually. And the good thing about that is that once you're on a named LMIA as a worker and you have a work permit that's employer specific, if that employer is also willing to offer you continued full-time employment and they're intending to employ you for another year after you get your PR, then you're probably eligible to claim arranged employment points. Please take a look. I've done a whole video on arranged
Yep.
employment and whether you qualify. We have a blog that I wrote on our website as well. So there's a few nuances about that, but make sure that you would qualify. And if that's the case, then it gives you 50 bonus points, which is a big deal. So there are benefits to going that route. However, sometimes it's hard to find an employer who's willing to go through that LMIA process, especially if they don't know you or you have not been working in Canada. And so one of the entry points that a lot of people use is the international experience class, which is in the second umbrella bucket of the international mobility program. So these are generally items that need a work permit but don't need an LMIA. So they are working holiday, which is an open work permit, or there is a young professional or a international co-op. It depends on the agreement in place between Canada and your country of nationality to see which ones are available to you. And you'd have to make sure that you're eligible and that you can actually get into the pool and get a draw because there's quotas on those. So it really does depend. They're different types of work permits. That open work permit is going to give you the ability to work, but it's not going to give you those 50 points. You're not going to get arranged employment points on an open work permit.
Yeah. And I'll just flip over. So those of you who are wondering where are all of these wonderful blog posts that Alicia has written, if you go to the Holthe Immigration Law website, you can see up here at the top, there's blog posts, and then you can actually search. This is one, for example, can I claim CRS points for a job offer in my express entry application? So Alicia goes into in depth about what a qualifying offer of arranged employment is and all the references, everything right to the source of the law behind it. And there's a lot of speculation. Lots of people talk from their experience. They talk about what these things are from the standpoint of the program delivery instructions on the IRCC website. But Alicia pulls this all the way back right down into the actual legislative authority for these things. So definitely check that out if you want to learn everything there is to know about those job offers. Okay, we've got a bunch of good questions, all related to express entry. And so let's pull this up here. Let's pull up a few more focused on express entry, because I think these are ones that are really going to
Mark,
go.
did you want to back up and say, hey, there was
Sure.
a draw and here's you probably talked about it yesterday, but yes, there
Oh,
was a
yeah.
draw.
Oh, yes, that's right. We probably should do that. And I had a client who, let's just pull it up. That's right. I forgot about that. That's something that we have not addressed for a while. Let's just pull it up here. And
And
we'll
that's something
slide.
people were worried about was with the
Yes.
strike, was there going to be a pause
Yeah.
in draws? And so the good news, everybody, is that there was a
Yes.
draw yesterday.
247 happened. Yeah. Yeah. And I had a client that I had a consult with. We updated the profile yesterday morning. and he had written his English test, and he still got a 6.5 in the writing. Oh my goodness, so frustrating. But he sat at 487. And so we were really, really happy. And I sent him a message yesterday, and he said he hadn't received his ITA yet, but by this morning it was there. So we are meeting here, I think either this afternoon or tomorrow, to just go over his EAPR, and I'm really, really excited for him. Really excited. So it's nice to see, yes, that the strike is not preventing the rounds of invitations from happening. So yesterday it was a no program specified draw. Once again, they did 3,500, just like the previous one, and the lowest score was 483. The cutoff was April the 22nd, 2023. So anyone who submitted their applications after, and you can see how like this cutoff is so new. So really, pretty much like 483. Anyone who submitted an application after April the 22nd. So if my client had was right on 483, he would not have gotten an ITA because we submitted it on April the 26th. And so, but anyone April 22nd, 2023 or earlier, if they landed right on 483, would have received an ITA or should have received an ITA. So thanks,
Yeah.
Alicia, for bringing that up.
Yeah, I had a good news story too. We had a Alberta Advantage Immigration Program application in process. So we had a client who's actually outside Canada who had submitted an AAIP application, got the nomination on Tuesday. I said, quick, accept. Hopefully there'll be a draw. And lo and behold, there was a draw. And so yes, same thing. It didn't appear right away. It appeared yesterday night. And then he now has an invitation to apply as well. So that's another good news story.
Cool. All right, well, we've got a super chat here from Eric. I'm just trying to figure out what the exact question is. Can I use an affidavit without first reaching out to a certified translator? So, in the context of translations, for a number of reasons, the government did and does allow for individuals who are not necessarily certified translators to be able to do translations and swear affidavits. And I don't know what your thoughts are, Alicia, on that. Does someone are they forced, or do they have to use a certified translator? I think the answer is probably no, but what are your thoughts
Yeah,
on it from a practical standpoint?
and I actually usually send people to, because they do have translation
ATIO.
of supporting documents,
Yeah.
yeah, for applications. And so there is a public policy kind of guideline on this in terms of what sort of documentation and translation is going to be accepted. And I'm not sure if you can pull that up, but basically, if you can use a certified translator, it is the preferred way of going because that translator has some sort of accreditation or a body that's going to have a translator number where they have been approved to do a translation between English and French or whatever your home country is. And then the translation of documents in the document, well, a completeness check itself is going to give you a little bit of guidelines as well. So you do normally want to have a certified translation.
Yeah, and you can see from the program delivery instructions, which these ones are on the completeness check program delivery instruction website for express entry. It says that an English or French translation stamped by a certified translator or accompanied by an affidavit from the person who completed the translation, if it is not possible to have the translation done by a certified translator. So I think generally speaking, in this online world, in this virtual world, it's pretty hard not to be able to find a translator that can help you, even if you're not in the same country. But generally speaking, there's the possibility of having someone who is not a certified translator, but but it's our opinion, our advice always to go with a certified translator
Yeah.
where
And
possible.
there are some, the publication manual also has, determining whether a translator is certified. How do you figure that out? How do you get proof of that? One thing I will mention on translations is a lot of people make the mistake of going out, properly getting their certified translation, and then the translator will give you the stamped copy with all the, stamps and their number and the fact that they're attesting that they've done a true and accurate translation. But sometimes people forget the second half of what you mentioned there, Mark, when you were reading out the completeness check, that you can't only provide the marked up, stamped, kind of certified copy. You actually have to have the original color version of that document as well in its entirety. So do be really careful on that. You
Yeah,
need both.
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's go to our next question here. The next one is GS, and GS says, it's Raj from Toronto. Quick question. When opt-in postgrad extension, after entering it, showing an error message, address should be within Canada. Even I entered correct address. Okay, so I think what Raj is saying is that he did everything the government told him to do, and it's still showing an error, and there's no confirmation. And I just had a call this morning with some of our colleagues across the country. Every month we have this little kind of a mastermind call just to talk about some of the craziness that's happening. And this was one of the things that one of the lawyers brought up. They've submitted on behalf of their clients to opt in for the postgrad, and there's been no confirmation. And so now the discussion is, do we need to file a defensive application to just ensure that the person is still in status, because there's glitches, there's problems with it. And then when you do opt in, and you don't get a confirmation, sometimes you try to do it again and it says you've already done it, but there's no proof that you've done it. So
Mhm.
we understand, Raj, this is not an easy situation. Alicia, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it does seem that there are a number of glitches in the opt-in procedure right now. Who knows when they're going to get corrected and fixed? I would say, just to be safe, if your work permit is expiring, or if you know that you need to be traveling and then coming back into Canada, it might just make sense to apply for the new permit under the public policy. So make sure that you follow the guidelines on how you're applying for that new 18-month open work permit. Make sure that you're doing it correctly according to their instructions, just to be safe, just so that if your document's expiring, you have an application in the queue. I wouldn't suggest that you travel. I would make sure that you actually get some sort of confirmation and document back before it's too late and you're outside Canada and things go south. So just make sure that if you've got an expiry looming, or if you have a employer, or if you have like your social insurance number or your health care or your driver's license that is expiring, it might just be better and safer to apply online and say, look, for whatever reason, here's the error message I got when I tried to do this through the opt-in procedure. Explain what happened and just explain that you're applying online.
Yeah, that's the safest. Just back to the same discussion on the strike and the impacts. I think maybe Timothy asked this question after you'd answered yours, Alicia, but he says, how optimistic are you that the strike will end soon enough to help process August school intake study permit applications? And so you can just reiterate that again, just for Timothy here, that
Mhm.
at this stage, right, we don't expect that there's going to be too many delays, at least with processing of the consulates overseas.
So hopefully the intake for the fall study programs will still proceed in terms of their overseas processing. It could potentially impact students who are in Canada switching from one program to another if they were changing and stacking programs, for example, if they're doing an in-Canada application. But hopefully those outside Canada applications will still be processed.
Here's the tricky study permit one. And so Syed says, Mark and Alicia, do non-credit 1 year, 2 year study programs get study in Canada points and can be used as a certificate in express entry? Please answer. So I'm assuming when they say it is a uh, non-credit, I have to assume that it's maybe a non-DLI. I don't know. This is there's so much craziness going on with these international schools and study. And we just had someone whose school was oh yes, we got a referral from some friends in Vancouver, and one of the schools that the person had been going to was delisted, like for postgrad
Oh,
work permits, so they were in the process of transferring to a new school. And the government is really cracking down on private schools and things that they feel are just not up to the quality of education, and that are really in many cases only serving the purpose of securing study permits for people, as opposed to genuinely offering a high quality education. So
yeah. So Syed, in general, no. In general, if you are taking a course from a non-designated learning institution, then you cannot use any sort of course from a non-DLI to qualify as Canadian education. So the only things that are going to give you Canadian education points would be if you were properly accepted into a designated learning institution. And that DLI needs to make sure that the program that it's offering is eligible. So that is going to form the basis of the study permit that you are hopefully approved for. And then if you have an approved study permit for a DLI and you complete that program of studies, as long as you have your transcript and your completion letter, you should be able to claim that you did that Canadian education. However, most people are making sure that that program of education is also eligible for a postgrad work permit. So not only do you need the DLI, but you also need to make sure that it's a PGWP eligible program. And so take a look at the drop-down list that the government provides. You can search IRCC and designated learning institutions and check to see whether the program that you're registered for is actually PGWP eligible, because in 99% of the cases, most people want to be able to use that Canadian education to then be able to turn around and get a Canadian work permit, which allows you to get Canadian work experience, which gives you a whole bunch of benefit in terms of your express entry points. So keep in mind that most education, like not all education, can be used. And the other thing that people get tripped up about is if they have a study permit for one program, and they start trying to take courses at a different program, because keep in mind that your study permit has conditions that you're only authorized to study for the program at the institution that's listed on your permit. And you don't want to get into a situation where immigration can say that you were engaging in unauthorized studies. So be really, really careful.
Yes. Okay, this is an express entry question. Mady says, thanks for these sessions, Mark and Alicia. They're vacuuming out here. I don't know if you can hear it in the background.
Just a little bit.
Okay, I think we're good now. Thanks for these sessions, Mark and Alicia. You're really helping us. Quick question. Do we need to provide reference letters for each job that we did? So maybe you can kind of break down our strategy when it comes to entering work history in the express entry process.
Yeah, assuming that you're looking at express entry, then make sure that when you are putting your work history in there, you are putting the work history in that you want to claim points for. So you're only going to claim points for, or be able to claim points for, high skilled work experience, something that's going to be at tier 3, 2, 1, or 0. You can't claim anything that's going to be a tier 4 or tier 5. And how you know is you take a look at the National Occupation Classification Codes. The second digit in that 5-digit tier code has got to be a 3 at least, or a 2, or a 1, or a 0. If you have older work experience that you are not going to rely on for points, it's still important that you disclose it if you happen to get an invitation to apply. So you're going to put it into your personal history, but you don't need to claim it for points if you're not going to get any points for it, which means you don't need to provide reference letters if you're not going to be putting it into your work history section. One area where people often make mistakes is sometimes they fail to disclose all of their work experience on their study permit applications or their postgrad work permit applications, and that can be a problem because immigration can say you've misrepresented your history, and it might have made a difference in how they adjudicated your study permit or your postgrad work permit.
All right. Okay. I'm going to pull this question up because I'm pretty sure I addressed it yesterday, and maybe they felt I didn't do a clear enough job with this. But Soda says, while on a postgrad work permit, can I take a technician course from a non-DLI institute? 4-month course, classes are at night and part-time. And then emphasis, literally all the info. Well, Soda, it's not ever all the info because half of the time our clients don't even know the questions to ask us. So we kind of anticipate. But generally speaking, Alicia, this gets into the issue of being able to attend, because remember, postgrads say not authorized to study. This gets down to the concept of the 6-month or a program of study under 6 months while on visitor status. To some extent, this is what's addressed. But I know there's also some factors that address professional classes and things. But please remember, when you are studying anywhere in Canada and it is it's less than 6 months, and you're, say, a visitor, you come in on a visitor status, for instance, this applies on entry. So you have 6 months from entry to take that program.
From your
And
initial entry.
from your initial entry, yes. So when you come in, yes, you can. And in most cases, it's English as a second language is what people do. But under 6 months, when you are when you've already been in Canada, you're changing statuses. Like we had this question come up a lot when people, with the pandemic, weren't able to work. And then they decide, well, okay, I have to stay in Canada and I'm going to switch to a visitor status while I'm waiting for the minister to announce another 18-month work permit, postgrad work permit. Well, I'm going to take this course, this 4-month course, and it's not authorized. And so, Alicia, do you want to kind of dive back into this particular, because the emphasis here I can see is on non-DLI institute. Like what, this is a technical program, that's obviously industry specific. And I think of it like the technical institutes here, not even institute, it's more like a job kind of training, job prep company, like Training Inc., we call it here in Lethbridge, who offer these types of programs to get back to work or whatever, but it's not an official post-secondary.
Mm-hmm.
What are your view on this, Alicia?
So one question I always ask people is it entirely distance learning? So if it is entirely distance learning, if everything is online, and if there is no in-person component, if you don't have to take an exam that's invigilated, meaning you go to a place in person and a live human being has to watch you take the exam, if everything is 100% online and it's distance learning, well, then probably you're okay, according to immigration's policy interpretation. So distance learning is generally not considered studies because you're never eligible for a study permit for distance learning. However, if you have your PGWP and you're relying on the short-term course of studies, because people hear about this, oh, it's a short-term course of studies, it's under 6 months, it's fine. It's not fine because you have to actually read the legislation. And the legislation is Section 188, Sub 1, Sub C, and of the Refugee Protection Regulations. And it says a foreign national may study in Canada without a study permit if the duration of their course or program of studies is 6 months or less and and will be completed within the period of their stay authorized upon entry into Canada. And there's been a bunch of case law at the federal court on this, and the federal court has said it's pretty clear language in terms of the second requirement that that course has to be completed within the initial period of your authorized stay in Canada. And if you're on a postgrad work permit, you would have already completed at least 8 months of studies plus then applied for your postgrad work permit. So there's no way you're completing that course within the first 6 months. So be really careful. If it is completely distance learning, then maybe you're okay. But otherwise, I would definitely want to talk to you because it's a gray zone and you need to declare any potential unauthorized study.
Absolutely. Now I've got another series. We're on this, so we might as well hit it hard because this is one of the most convoluted areas. I don't know how international students even can puzzle through this stuff. We spend so much time as immigration lawyers trying to dissect it. The instructions are often incomplete. There's gaps. They don't always align with the actual regulations, the policy that IRCC has taken. And so let's go through this. There's 3 comments here from Peter that I think are worth addressing. So Peter says, I completed a 2-year business co-op diploma program at a private college, once again, that doesn't offer postgrad work permit. But they are on the list of designated learning institutions. So I'll just address this first part. Never, ever come and study in Canada if you're an international student unless the school actually offers postgrad work permits. It's a waste of your money. Simple. It's as simple as that. It serves no purpose unless there's some weird, strange justification why you just don't intend to stay in Canada and this education is going to help you back in your home country, well, that's fine. But do you have any desire to become a permanent resident, do not waste your money going to a private school that is not PGWP eligible. Okay, so in this case, Peter's school was a designated learning institution, so the study permit could be issued. Since I got a diploma, can I claim points for my Canadian education? And then we'll just continue on here. He says, it's a sales and marketing co-op diploma program at a private college. He says, It doesn't offer postgrad, but I was unable. Well, but I wasn't able to find. Oh, but I was able to find the college on the list. Okay, so we know it's a DLI. And then the last one, he said, I couldn't find anything in the regulations that would say a school must be eligible for postgrad work permit to be able to claim points for it. Since I got a diploma, can I claim points for my Canadian education? So this is the question. And so yes, some designated learning institutions, DLIs, um, do not offer postgrad work permits. Just as a little lead in, we know that IRCC has instituted their own program delivery instructions, their own policy with respect to some permanent resident processes. For example, the TR to PR pathway, where even if the school was a designated learning institution, if it did not offer postgrad work permits, then you could not count that as a school and education for the international graduate stream. We know that because I had a client who we had to go back and well, we went through a humanitarian and compassionate process to save the application for her. And that reminds me, Alicia, I need to reach out because I haven't heard from her. Anyways, and then of course, just to finish things off, Peter says, I got an ITA yesterday and included this school in my profile, 492 score. What should I do? Well, I'll tell you, I can't tell you guys how many times we do this. We ring this bell for a reason, and it's so that we can help to sort things out. And in the context of a live Q&A here on YouTube and all these other platforms, it's not possible for us to give specific advice for you, Peter. So whenever someone says, what should I do? Book a consult and let's sort through it. But Alicia, we've kind of given you a little bit of time to do a little bit of digging and searching because it isn't an easy question. But what are your thoughts in terms of restrictions of counting education when, within the profile and within the APR, it only asks for the DLI number of the school?
Yeah. So when you're actually, if you get your ITA and you're filling out your EAPR, when it goes through the education, it's going to give you a bunch of drop downs and it's going to ask you, was this a public or a private institution? And so if it is a private institution, then it's going to ask you some more questions. Keep in mind that you should go and double check. And interestingly, Mark, I was searching while you were talking
Yeah.
there, but the ministerial instructions regarding express entry were just updated yesterday, and I'm not exactly sure what was changed, but I'm going to have to go through and with a
Yes.
fine-tooth comb do a comparison and figure out what they changed because there's a new version that is in effect as of 2 days ago. But take a look at section 30, so points for a Canadian education credential. And this is the ministerial instruction that's going to determine whether or not you actually can claim those points. And everything's going to fall down like a house of cards if you can't, because probably you've had your work experience compounded with your Canadian education. So yeah, take a look at the full text of the ministerial instructions. I don't know what was changed, but something was changed. There's a new version in force as of April 25th. And if you go down to section 30, it's going to talk about requirements. So section 30 sub 3 is going to say points are only assigned if you trained at a school that was located in Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to talk about qualifying education or eligible credentials and whether that school is actually going to be accredited for private or public purposes. And so be careful. Be careful with this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we were to go in and we were to look at the questions that are asked, and this is the problem, right? Because if you follow all of the instructions and you complete your express entry profile with your study in the way in which IRCC lays it out in your profile, Peter, you would get your result 100% of the time. And so Alicia, I don't know, like, what's your view in terms of this type of a situation? Like, I'll be honest, Peter, you've done exactly what you need to do, but I can't, I can't, we'll need to do some more digging and we'll get back to you because Peter, yes, is a client of our firm and we're working with him. And so, we'll circle back with you, Peter, and see what the end results is. He says he's just working with Cedric right now, so we'll definitely see see what happens. Yeah,
Take
but
a
it's
look at
not
30
clear.
sub 4. Yeah,
Yeah,
30 sub 4. And it is important to make sure there is some case law on this as well. So there have been some circumstances where, even worse than Peter's case, the website actually said it was a PGWP eligible program, but when the officer dug into it, they said it wasn't because it didn't equate to a public post-secondary institution. And
Yeah.
so this becomes more complex than it seems at face value. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right, Peter. And you can see once again, just to read it again, you guys. So, a degree, diploma, certificate of trade, or apprenticeship credential from a Canadian public post secondary institution, okay, or from a private post secondary institution that operates under the same rules and regulations as the public. And that's the kicker right here. So, that's why we can't tell from from your question right now, the nature of the school that you attended. We just know that it's private, and how it fits in. That's where the investigation will need to we need to dig into it a little bit further.
yeah, what actually happened in the cases was that it was required that the applicant had evidence about making sure that that province's rules equated to what would happen at a public institution. So the private school was operating with the same rules that a public school would operate at under the provincial legislation. So it depends what province, and it depends how your school is incorporated and instituted.
Yeah. All right, let's shift away from that and let's jump back into some more express entry questions. Kunal says, can we use an old work experience, which is not the current profile, as the primary knock? So I don't know exactly what they mean by the current profile, but ultimately, I think maybe the current work experience where they're currently working, can they use the primary knock as work experience that they, obtained previously?
Mhm. So I'm assuming, Kunal, then you're looking at foreign work experience, so it's high skilled work experience that you gained outside of Canada. The rules for that are a little bit different than the Canadian work experience, so making sure that you meet those minimum eligibility criteria. So at least you need to have within the last 10 years, 1 year of continuous high skilled work experience in one knock. And as long as you've met that within the last 10 years, you could use that as your primary knock. The only thing is, if you have a new job now, a different job now, then you'd want to make sure to lay out each of the knock codes that you're relying on and prove that you have the number of months, years of work experience that you are claiming in order to try to gain points for those years. So you can use different or older experience as long as it's within the last 10 years, and as long as you have 1 year continuous in a high skilled knock. And then you can have different knocks after that.
Okay, let's shift to, and I know Alva, you've asked this a couple times, and it's hard for us to answer this, okay? Because I'll just get angry. I'll be honest. I'll just get angry. So he says the Atlantic Immigration Program endorsement is granted to the applicant. The Atlantic provinces strongly recommend not hiring a representative. Why? Is it not complicated to prepare and submit the AIP application? It looks tricky. Alicia,
Oh man.
you respond because I'll just be angry.
It is extremely unfortunate, I think, that the Atlantic provinces are recommending not to hire a representative. I think that is outside of the scope of being professional. I think it's unprofessional to recommend not to hire a representative. I think people, when they're choosing representatives, need to do their homework. They need to make sure that the representative that they hire is somebody who's authorized to provide legal advice under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, Section 91, and that includes lawyers. It also includes some consultants, but you have to make sure that they're properly accredited. So if you are looking to hire a representative, people have the right to counsel. They have the right to be able to make sure that they are hiring somebody who knows what they're doing. And it's a privilege to be able to practice immigration law. So making sure that we're doing this properly is going to be regulated by our law societies. I can't just make something up or give advice to people without suffering extremely bad consequences personally and professionally if I do so. And so that is the benefit of hiring an immigration lawyer, that we have law societies who are going to fine us, take away our ability to practice, hold us accountable, and make us return money to clients if we have done a bad job, if we have acted fraudulently or against the interests of the client. So when you have people, lawyers, who are, you know, I have trained We have all done a degree plus law school. So we have at least probably 7 years of university experience plus articling plus our experience as lawyers before we give immigration advice. And it's very disconcerting that government officials would say, don't hire a representative, um, because representatives can help you avoid so many pitfalls in your application. And there are for sure unscrupulous representatives who might take control of your application, and that's probably not going to serve you well either. But if you're working with somebody reputable and you need that information and advice, you have a right to get that information and advice, and nobody should be telling you that you aren't allowed or shouldn't hire a lawyer.
Yeah, the reason I get frustrated is because I'm just still really frustrated with the consultant regulator. And there are some really good consultants out there, but there's a lot of crappy consultants. And the difference between a crappy lawyer and a crappy consultant is that if you have a crappy lawyer and you report it to the Law Society, my goodness, if I hear anything about another immigration lawyer, like, and they are either like, it's one thing to give bad advice, but if they are, you know, well, whatever, we'll leave it at that. Negligence, there's insurance, there's avenues of recourse for individuals if they are being represented by an immigration lawyer that makes mistakes, that gives improper advice, or counsels anything that is, would be misrepresentation or otherwise. The law societies are all over that stuff. But I'm not happy at all with the regulator, not even this third incarnation for the immigration consultants. Heaven forbid, even the good immigration consultants, I know I've talked with so many. And what do you do when all around you, you're surrounded by people who don't care to follow the law, who, I've got one in Lethbridge, she, I talk about this at length, and it's really a sensitive spot for me. And so if there's no teeth and there's no actual enforcement to go after, really bad representatives, then that's what happens. The provinces who have to deal with it, they're just like, I'd rather not deal directly. Like you take Alberta, for instance, the Alberta Opportunity Stream, there is no representative portal. You have to work in the background for the client. And that's fine. We as a firm have made a conscious decision to work in support of our clients. And to work collaboratively with them versus just controlling the application ourselves. And I think
Uh,
government likes that. But
yeah, and the thing is, we do it properly, right? We're not hiding the
yeah,
fact that we're
yeah,
assisting people on their applications. We provide an advice for consideration letter, and it says, look, I'm a lawyer. Here's my Law Society number. You can look me up. Here's all my contact information that I need to provide under the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. But I want to be clear, I'm not taking my clients' passwords. They have full control over their application, and they're not actually appointing me as a rep to take over their file. They're just working with me so that they're sure that they've done it correctly when they go and submit their own application. And that's the way, that's
yeah,
completely above board, and that's the way to be able to disclose it.
yeah. And just to take it to a couple other levels, it just never ceases to amaze me how people are so willing to take advantage of their own countrymen. How, someone comes from the Philippines, they immigrate here, they get themselves established, and then they offer immigration advice to all their friends and everybody else, when they're not even a regulated person. They haven't even gone through and become an immigration consultant. We're seeing this, and I'm going to do a podcast episode with Igor here, and we're going to record it in about 5 minutes, but you guys definitely want to watch episode 110, because we're going to talk about what's happening with the Kuwait visa. And there's a lot of really seedy stuff that's happening. People that are coming, Ukrainians are coming here, they're establishing their Instagram channel and they're talking about all their experience. And then, here, come, we'll make it easy for you to come to Canada. Pay me whatever X dollars and I'll help you to get your Kuwait visa. Freak. Like the Canadian Immigration Institute, we have a free course to teach you how to do it yourself. But you get this all the time. And so then the regulator, the consultant regulator, no one wants to take responsibility. They don't want to go pursue them. Like there was another person Igor tried to report and nothing came of it. Zero. So if there's no consequences, why the heck would you ever worry about it? And so within the context of the Immigration Consultant Association, like they have a massive number of individuals to regulate. And it's not possible. Well, at least at this stage, they haven't shown the ability to do it. If something's really egregious, if it's tantamount to criminal, then oh yeah, if it's going to bring the some bad press, yes, but every day, bad advice is given, and there's very little recourse for people. And I'll reiterate it again. If I hear of any immigration lawyer who's giving bad advice, I will not hesitate to report them to the law societies, because it's me. It's my profession. It waters down what I'm trying to do and what Alicia is trying to do, and all of the immigration lawyers out there who give our hearts and souls to this. And so this is a question that's super, super delicate, and yes, there's a history behind it and why, but I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that, because just to reiterate, there are some great immigration consultants out there, and there's some phenomenal immigration lawyers, and there are some crappy ones in both departments, right? But ultimately, I've got a whole lot more confidence in the law societies going after an actual lawyer called to the bar than I do the immigration consultant regulator right now. So I'll leave it at that. That's my opinion. All right, we're going to end on that. And we've had a bunch of other questions. Remember, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I go live, and then every Thursday at noon Mountain Time, Alicia and I are together. All right, we'll leave it at that. But do check out the podcast. If you haven't subscribed, do it. Subscribe to this channel if you're on YouTube or wherever you're watching this. Make sure that you share the love and let people know what we're trying to do here. And it's really about education and doing everything that we can to just help people avoid the common problems that we see, the pitfalls, the dangers, just the dark places of immigration, which unfortunately are all around us. And we're so grateful that you guys were here, that you're watching, for the support. And remember, Holthe Immigration Law, we are an immigration law firm. And if you need any help, all you need to do is click on the link below to book a consult, and we can give you assistance. And I think, you can check the reviews, the Google reviews, and see what our clients are saying about us, and formulate your own opinion. But we would just, please do your due diligence. And just because someone speaks your language doesn't mean that they are the best person to that you can trust, right? I'll leave it at that. Okay. Thanks, Alicia, for joining in, and thanks everybody else. It's been another great edition of the Canada Immigration live Q&A, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.